primary job of the federal government is to ensure safety and security for we the people. It's pretty safe to say that they are not doing that. So what is your money going to? Well, as he does every year, Senator Rand Paul released a Festivus report, now giving cardiologists all across the country plenty of business from taxpayers who are furious about where their money is going. Now, over $900 billion, complete and total waste. Light it on fire, flush the ashes down the toilet. Let that sink in. Now, just for reference, that is the equivalent of the total defense spending of the top 25 nations around the world, excluding America. And we just wasted it. And in case you forgot, last year the federal government still spent $1.7 trillion more than they took in. But don't worry, the 2024 elections are coming, so we'll have plenty of chances to vote all these people out. But this has compounded to the nearly, I don't know, it's like $34 trillion in debt we have now. And because some of the people running our fiscal policy are so dumb that they think the island of Guam can physically capsize. We had to borrow more money to pay the interest on the money we already borrowed. This is DC math for you. The interest on our debt consumed was probably the most of that $900 billion, $659 billion. Now, this is debt that has been acquired at no fault to any of us, but rather the complete and utter mismanagement of our fiscal policy. Those in D.C. are 100% responsible for this, yet we bear the burden. Inflation, taxes, that's how it works. You know, look, folks, you know how much I hate sending our money to other countries, especially when we have homeless veterans and wide open borders here. But despite that, USAID spent a cool $6 million to boost Egyptian tourism, which it promotes as a, quote, valuable investment in sustainable integrated tourism, whatever the heck that means. Oh, and this little tidbit, the U.S. has spent over $100 million on Egyptian tourism over the years. But this is just the surface. The United States Department of Agriculture saw fit to grant millions to walking the dogs in hot weather. What's even more infuriating is that we don't know how many millions because they just won't tell us. But rest assured, it was cutting-edge technology. It was researched to support a summer study that walked only 16 dogs of 2 different colors, and it measured their rectal temperatures at the end of each walk. And for all this money, we found out, drum roll please, turns out that Labrador's fur color did not affect their body temperatures after a hot summer's walk. That's all. Of course, it was also measured by a nearly $40,000 FLIR T400 infrared device. I wonder how many of those they bought. And I have a dog walker. I pay her like $15 an hour, and she can tell me more than that stupid study. And while we're on pets, we doled out $2.7 million for Russian cats on treadmills funded by the NIH, you know, Fauci's old group. But it gets far worse. After they cut their brain stems, Russian cats were forced to walk on a treadmill in Russian labs. It was probably done in Russia because, as it turns out, it's frowned upon to snip a cat's brainstem and then stimulate the muscles through a series of targeted electric shocks. Weird. This is all thanks to us taxpayers, of course. DHS, well, since they're not busy closing down the border, they had plenty of time to embark on a 5-year diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility DEI strategic plan. Now, the employees gathered for a federally funded workshop where attendees focused on, quote, effective strategies to build and sustain psychological safety that allows individuals to show up to work as their authentic and best selves. Gee, thanks. And this is the product of everybody getting a trophy. Maybe the Department of Homeland Security is not the place for you if you're easily prone to the SADs. Anyway, the government paid a bunch of dead people again last year, or actually still this year in 2023, $38 million for that. 1.3 million of which went to just 30 people that had been dead for over a year already. Of course, almost none of these funds were recovered because it's actually notoriously hard to get your money back from dead people. Now, here's something that caught my eye. $89 million worth of wasted and destroyed engines and other military equipment. But wait till you hear why. Now, apparently the code, which everything in the military has, it's some, this is down to a paper clip. That code was not properly assigned to some of this equipment so that when it was scanned at its final destination, it did not list store indoors. So instead of putting engines in a covered shed, they were just left outside at like $1 million an engine. No one thought to say, these things are rusting. We better put them away. No, can't think for yourself in the military anymore. I mean, Nobody thought to say that? Sir, they should be covered. Nope, nobody raised their hand. And here, how to ruin expensive military equipment, part 2, transmissions, $12.6 million worth. The DOD Inspector General found the U.S. Army improperly stored 135 hydraulic transmissions. They were valued at $12.6 million. At least these had the proper code to store inside, but somehow that even fell through the cracks. I mean, this was the best one. They interviewed over 1,000 officials, 1,000. And they all told the IG, the Inspector General, they simply didn't have enough room in the shed. Well, get another shed. It's cheaper than all those transmissions. We lost $68 million worth of tank treads, too. That's a ton of tank treads. Again, the IG did another interview with over 1,000 military officials, and they said, well, we just didn't follow our own storage guidance. The federal government owns like billions of dollars worth of completely empty buildings that we are paying to light, heat, cool. Yeah, a simple search somewhere would have yielded something where they could put these things somewhere. But this is the linear group thing. Trump noted this.
$9 million, we have $60-70 million plans. You mean you think it's cheaper to leave it there so they can have it than it is to fill it up with a half a tank of gas and fly it into Pakistan or fly it back to our country? You think, yes, sir, we think it's cheaper, sir. That's when I realized he was a idiot.
I nailed it. I mean, like, who got fired over that? No one. All these military guys still have their job. Also, we found out that we gave $12 million in grants to a bunch of monkeys in a lab in Mississippi to test meth. Yes, meth. So they could study the effect it had on their sleep habits. I mean, what could this possibly be for? What benefit is there in this? The NIAID, again, is also using $477,000 of your tax dollars to fund forced feminization of male monkeys to see if they were more or less susceptible to HIV. Now, look, this didn't sound right, so I did a little bit of digging. I'm not a biologist, but my understanding is that monkeys are not susceptible to HIV. They can be carriers, but I don't think injecting male monkeys with female hormones is a worthy cause of even one taxpayer dollar, especially to study HIV. I mean, it's completely different. I'm not even a scientist. But let's get to some real cheddar. This was the best. Improper federal payments, improper, okay? $236 billion worth for fiscal year 23. That's $675 million a day being lit on fire, going to things like improper Medicaid payments, unemployment fraud, income tax credits, the PPP, some of which Barbie dolls and their faces were used for COVID payment applications. Now, this is all approved by AI, right? What could go wrong? I mean, is it too much to ask to have like a little bit of oversight on this? To have some human involved at some point in giving our hard-earned money out to other people? Come on. Am I crazy thinking that? This is the government. They are always implementing long-term solutions for short-term problems, and it never goes away. Ronald Reagan was right when he said, quote, actually, a government bureau is the nearest thing to eternal life we'll ever see on this earth. You mad yet? Well, if you are, here's how to fight back. Stop giving these people your money. Within our laws, folks, and I'm all about solutions, so here we go. There are a significant amount of legal methods to dodge taxes. First, start your own company. Have your employer pay you via 1099 if you don't need the benefits. Tons of write-offs as your own employment. You can write off everything from your car, your phone, even part of your home for a home office. Could save you actually a ton of money every year, as in not giving it to the G-man. Now, here's a top one. Invest in rental or commercial real estate. You don't have to be rich to do this. You can pool your money as little as a couple $100 to many thousands for this. Look, I believe the bottom's about to fall out of the real estate market, so this could be a really good one coming up. If you have some cash laying around, great time to put it in once it bottoms out. You can write off depreciation, expenses, or whatever. You can even pass along these appreciating assets with no tax penalties to your family. You want to know why Donald Trump didn't release most of his tax returns? Because through perfectly legal loopholes, folks, he said this on stage, some years I bet he didn't pay any taxes from this investment. Invest in appreciable assets that don't have tax liabilities. You'll have to pay it if you ever sell it, like a capital gains tax, but things like art. Any reputable artist. Buy what you can, especially when older artists, because when they die, it almost becomes more valuable. Almost always. Pass that off to your kids, boom, no taxes, no inheritance taxes. Look, I'm not a financial advisor by a long shot, but there's a ton of legal ways you can do that. I just picked up a book and started looking through this stuff. It's black and white right there from the federal government. Pay less taxes. That sounds great. It's worth looking into since they're dumping $100 million into funding Egyptian tourism.